in May of 2007, when I was just 22 years old and studying in university, I found myself peeing my pants in front of a bunch of people in the lunchroom of a psych ward. And no, that wasn't some trick to grab the attention of a cute nurse. Now imagine the fear that needs to be going through your head as a grown adult to pee your pants in front of a bunch of people while eating lunch. I was in such a state of paralyzing fear, I thought the entire world was coming to an end. I thought I was going to die in such terrifying ways. I can't even describe the details. A couple of days before that, I was sitting in the lunchroom of the psych ward, just watching TV. And there were closed caption messages on the TV that didn't line up with what the characters were saying. I thought my dad was on TV being tortured. And I thought there were people in the room across the hall being killed in horrible, horrible ways. And I thought it was my turn next. And worst of all, I thought I deserved it. So sitting there, considering my options and just thinking that this was my fate, that there was nothing I could do to avoid this, I summoned up all the courage I had and stood up from that couch and walked across the hall and just thought, I hope this ends quickly. And just as I'm about to enter that room, another guy from the psych ward stopped me and said, "Hey man, that's the women's washroom. Guys is down the hall." And man, was I confused, but also pretty relieved. I tell you, I did everything I could to get off that psych ward as quick as possible, including going to arts and crafts, and I don't go to arts and crafts. I went to every group and activity and goal-setting session they offered, because I figured if I went to every activity, they'd think I'm doing well and discharge me. And after just a couple of weeks, I was discharged from the hospital. But while I was leaving the scariest time of my life, I was entering into the hardest. I had been diagnosed with schizophrenia while I was in the hospital. And while that was a tough thing to hear, on top of that, for the second time in 2 years, my life had fallen apart. For the second time in 2 years, I had to drop out of school. For the second time in 2 years, I had to move back in with my parents. For the second time in 2 years, I had to isolate myself from all my friends. Just at that moment when I should have been spreading my wings and learning and growing and connecting, my dreams lay shattered before me. I couldn't read a newspaper article, let alone think of getting back to school or having a job and a career one day. I couldn't drive a car for fear of purposely crashing, let alone think of living independently again one day. I couldn't hang out with my closest friends, let alone think of attracting a girlfriend or having a wife and kids one day. My hopes for a better future were crushed. So I decided to do what most people do these days when they're searching for an answer. I turned to Google. And one of the first things I did when I left the hospital was Google search schizophrenia success stories. I figured there just had to be someone out there that had overcome this illness and gone on to do great things. And if I could just model them, then maybe, just maybe, I too could overcome this illness. And Google performed its duty and presented me with a number of schizophrenia success stories. The only problem was a lot of them were posted anonymously and often highlighted multi-year or multi-decade recoveries. Now, I've since found inspiring schizophrenia success stories, but right then I was disappointed and uninspired. But in that moment, I decided that I needed to be a success story for the next wave of young people, struggling not just with mental illness, but with any major challenge. A beacon of hope in a world of hopelessness. And finally, I had found a purpose, a reason to succeed, a reason to push myself beyond my potential, a reason beyond myself. I decided to flip everything upside down and turn my pain into fuel, my challenge into an opportunity. And that one perspective shift has driven me ever since. The years since my diagnosis have truly been the best years of my life. I've been able to connect with incredible people in the mental health field, turn mentors into friends, and reach people across Canada with my story. I've been able to take part in some truly wild adventures, sailing from Panama to Colombia, scuba diving with sharks, running ultramarathons, and mountaineering around North America. I've been able to pursue a career in mental health that allows me to use my challenges as a way to support and encourage other people who are struggling. In a couple of months, I'll be one of the co-hosts of the Balancing Our Minds Youth Summit, held at Rogers Arena for upwards of 2,000 youth. And I got back to school, and I graduated from my 2010 SFU Business class as Valedictorian. How does this make sense? How is this even possible? Well, let me tell you, I take full responsibility for my illness. Sure, there's a genetic component, but there's also an environmental one. I was treating people poorly, not taking care of my health, and overall just not being a very good human. But in the face of that, the people around me still supported me when I needed it the most. None of these positive experiences would even be possible without the incredible support from many, many people. My family, girlfriend, mental health teams, friends, old and new, mentors and colleagues have all contributed to my recovery just as much as I have. With their support, I've learned that our biggest challenges are in fact our biggest opportunities. I believe that's the case for all of us. We all face challenges, do we not? Challenges can be thrown at us by life or other people, or we can pursue challenges that inspire us. Challenges can crush us or strengthen us, but every challenge is an opportunity to grow, to connect, to serve. So right about now, you're probably either thinking that I'm insane and should go back to the psych ward, or you're wondering how to do this. My take on what it takes to turn your challenges into opportunities and what separates that from those who get crushed by the challenges comes down to 3 strategies. The first is a shift in perspective, taking your challenge and tapping into an empowering perspective, knowing that challenges are a normal part of progress, and believing that your challenge can be used as fuel to get healthy, to connect on a deeper level, to serve the world in some way. One of the best things I did to shift my perspective after getting out of the hospital was read biographies of great leaders, people like Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi, and Terry Fox, and Christopher Gardner. And all of a sudden, their massive challenges that seemed like this made my massive challenge feel like this. And that one simple perspective shift gave me the confidence that maybe something good could come from this illness, that maybe, just maybe, I could overcome this challenge. I started to realize that every success requires us to face and overcome challenges, and that helped me persevere through those tough times. I started to pursue challenges that inspired me, to build appreciation and prepare me for future challenges. A couple of months ago, I ran my 3rd ultramarathon, my first 50-miler. And that was a massive challenge. But to me, that's training not just to keep my body fit, but to keep my mind strong, to keep my illness under control, and to build reserves to handle future challenges. Every challenge we face prepares us for future challenges. That's strategy number one. And if you do only that, you can live a great life. Now, the second strategy in turning your challenges into opportunities comes from finding a purpose for the challenge. Now, finding a purpose can be tricky, but it's an important step in avoiding being crushed by the challenge. I truly believe we all have a deep and meaningful purpose within us that, when unlocked, offers rewards and fulfillment worth their weight in gold. Sometimes it can be revealed in a moment. Sometimes it takes strategic thought. But it's my belief that our purpose comes from our pain. And when we take that pain and turn it into a driving force to improve the situation for ourselves or other people, that's when we start living a purpose-driven life. And that's when our challenge starts to fuel us. Now, once you've tapped into an empowering perspective and found a purpose for the pain, the third strategy is to clarify what needs to happen in order to fulfill that purpose. We need a goal, a dream that excites us and inspires us, that lights us up, that gives us direction and focus. And when we take that goal and line it up with our purpose, that's when we start living a purpose-driven life. And that's when our challenge turns into rocket fuel. I'll think of people that led the cancer movement and the results of them applying this approach, and the millions of dollars raised and the improved life expectancy for those diagnosed. Think of the environment and the results of innovators applying this approach to not only improve the world, but to build businesses and wealth. Think of a time when you turned a challenge into an opportunity and how that worked out. So now you're faced with a choice. You can do what society says to do and seek comfort and security and avoid challenges at all costs. Or you can choose to live fully and embrace the challenges that life throws your way and turn them into the biggest opportunities you've ever had. If you're one of the mavericks, one of the wild ones, one of the courageous souls who chooses this second path, you can experience life in a raw, authentic way, not being afraid of getting scratched up or knocked down. You can choose the better path over the easy path, not being afraid of the challenges that'll come up by doing so. Finally, with this path, you can pursue your wildest dreams without the fear of the challenges that'll come your way. Once we understand that the challenge is the opportunity, we can drive full force towards our dreams, towards our true potential. That's when you come alive, and that's when you start inspiring the world. In my short time with you here today, I'd like to encourage you to try this out and experience the benefits. Now imagine what would happen in your own life if you were to apply this approach the next time you face a challenge. And imagine what would happen in our communities if all of us put this into practice. Imagine what would happen in our world if everyone applied this approach to the global challenges we face. That's what I want for you. That's what I want for our communities. And that's what I want for our world. I've done this living with one of the world's most debilitating diseases. Now, it's your turn. Thank you.